ICIJ launched a really new, large, gigantic investigation as well, right?
Yes.
So there were some like hints on Twitter some days before. I don't know if some of you have seen that, but it was quite impressive. Yesterday they launched again, like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 stories around the world based on this Pandora leaks, how it's called, data sets, probably opening the box of Pandora.
I mean,
when they run out of
they're probably gonna run
keywords, if they run out of keywords at some point, right? So
I
Pandora,
feel the same.
Panama's. Oh no, we had Bahama and Rwanda leaks in between as well, right?
There were some other and then FinCEN files, yes. Definitely, but I guess these leaks, these Panama Paradise, Pandora leaks. I guess it's like it's a theme, but it's I thought the same. At some point, I initially thought, okay, there might not be enough leaks, but now I think they run out of P words.
I wonder what happens first, right?
Yeah,
and I mean, there was also the Facebook leak on the weekend as well, right? So with the Facebook internal documents being leaked and whistleblower, and so lots of brave people highlighting works of half legal or illegal activities in all kinds of places. So
totally,
really impressive how courageous these folks are to do this.
Absolutely, yes, very much so. And I think, no, you go ahead.
Because with the money involved, it's also really dangerous, right? So I mean, if there are like hundreds of millions or hundreds of billions dollars in play, then it's easy to send your murder squad after journalists, right? and I would be quite scared, actually, to be honest, as a journalist working with this kind of data, because there are lots of very powerful and very dangerous people as well that are involved in these kind of things, right? So
and yeah, exactly like you said, and particularly also wealthy people, so they probably don't shy away from spending a few of their illegal cash, euros, dollars, whatever, on some kind of activity that wouldn't be very, very nice.
Exactly. And it was kind of surprising again to see. I'm just pulling it up now, if you can see that. So this is the ICIJ website.
I was just wondering. Yeah, okay. I can use your screen then. Yeah.
Where they have all the stories of the Pandora papers. Why does it not scroll? For some reason, it stopped scrolling. Oh no, it's good. So they have basically videos and first stories here on the website. And then they have one more detailed story over here, where they explain a little bit more what's in the data, how many documents. So it was 12 million documents, lots of text documents, but also PDFs, bank reports, contracts, passports, bank statements, and all of this kind of stuff. Some structured data like CSV and DB files and spreadsheets and so on. And but they found this time, because they also had this time US safe haven, so like South Dakota in there. So it's really interesting to see also kind of that it's this time not just the people that hide their money in Panama or Cayman Islands, but there's also a lot of US stuff as well. All right, so you see that 81 US states basically have the most. South Dakota has 81 trusts in the Pandora papers, and so we'll see more US information coming out of that as well. And I was really happy to see that the ICIJ again used Neo4j and Linkurious to create a graph of the data. Unfortunately, data is not yet available, so we'll have to wait a little bit, but perhaps you're lucky, and next time on our next stream, we can actually look at some of the data at least.
Hopefully,
in Aura, as such. That would be really cool. But it depends on when they make the data available. They said here at the end, where is it? Yes, they're going to release the data, but it's basically not yet, right? So I think similar
to last time, I think they're probably gonna work a little bit more on it, and then they're gonna release it. Obviously, I think what they did last time was they didn't release it all. They anonymized and removed some stuff of it. But I guess that's what they need to do now before they can.
Yeah, exactly. So they only publish like companies and officers, but they don't publish things like passport information or like contract information or bank records directly. So they only basically publish the structure. So which shell companies are there, which law firms are involved, which banks are involved, and which people are the ultimate owners as well, right? So you see actually people behind the scenes that are actually owning these companies. So that's actually really interesting then.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
We can look at
and
that.
I think that's also like what Cobra just asks is, do you think it's possible to combine Pandora papers with other papers, the Panama papers and the Paradise papers, and maybe even FinCEN files or whatever? And I think it's totally fair to say that this is possible, and then probably I would say the ICIJ is doing this already.
Yeah, that's what they say here. ICIJ is planning to incorporate data from the Pandora papers into the Offshore Leaks database. So it's basically will be one gigantic database. I don't know if you've seen if you go to the Offshore Leaks pages, to the Offshore Leaks database, they have now 785,000 shell companies in there. So basically, with every leak, there are like 200,000 or 300,000 additional shell companies that are being added, and so it kind of continues to grow. If you look at like this, then you see Paradise paper added so many, and Panama paper added that many, and so on. You basically can look at how much each leak added to this overarching database as such. So it will become like a larger and larger database basically, and they will make it publicly available as well. Yeah. So looking forward to that as such, and hopefully we can explore it either next time or one of the next times as such.
Yeah, and then maybe I can quickly go over here. So I think what's interesting is that they also have this power player view thing where they basically you pick one of the interesting people, and I just picked the first one on the list, Abdullah II, and then you give some information what's in the Pandora papers about the guy and something, and then if you scroll further down, you get a little visualization of the graph of his connections. So you see he is very involved with all kinds of entities. You can zoom in a little bit, and then you see some more details about entities. And here you see, for example, this company here does whatever things, and you can get some more details and related stories. So I think that's pretty cool. Yes, Cobra on Twitch, they are using Neo4j for this, which is
It's also in the article. So if you read the article, cool they mention actually that they mention it here. That they use Linkers and Neo4j in there. It's interesting that you found the Power Players feature, because I tried to find it yesterday, and yesterday it was not yet online. So they must have updated it.
Yeah, maybe I can post a link in chat.
Please do. Yeah, that will be really good.
So they have all. This is like here you see the full list of people they have as particularly interesting, and you can go on anyone else. So you could go, for example, I don't know, here Princess Dalla Hasna from Morocco, and then it gives you who she is and then what she did, and then her connection. So in this case, she is the beneficial owner of one like a trust here in the British Virgin Islands. So yeah,
cool. Because last time they published, I think it was when they originally published the Panama Papers, what we actually did is, because we didn't want to wait for their data publication, we just grabbed the data from the Power Players web UI. So because you can access the JSON from that. But I need to look into that. And so perhaps we can look at this next time. That perhaps we can load directly from the Power Players feature the data if it's not there yet.
Or I mean, I guess they provide the data and at some point, so we'll see how long it takes them. But I'm pretty confident that probably a couple of days, maybe weeks.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. But this is exciting. But today we actually wanted to talk about Neo4j Aura free with you and me. Quickly, what is Neo4j Aura free? I guess we talked about this a couple of times, but we will go over this again. We will pick a data set. If you have a data set you would like us to explore, please let us know. We would always be interested in getting new data sets, interesting challenges, or interesting data to model. Obviously, yes. This new ICHA leak will be one hot on our top list, basically. So we will look into that as soon as it's available. Then we think about what kind of questions we might ask. So how would a model look like? What kind of data modeling tools would we use? So we usually use arrows, and when we go about talking about what the questions we want to solve from the data, and this would usually form a kind of model which would then try to transform over from a let's say virtual whiteboard onto the database itself. Determine the mail and then load and query, obviously. So this is the plan for today. So then I'll quickly talk about what Neo4j Aura free is. So it is the free version of Neo4j Aura. So as simple as that. You get 50,000 nodes and 175,000 relationships for free. You get access to Neo4j Bloom as well, and browser, which obviously is part of all Neo4j editions. It's free forever, so that's one of the big differences between Aura and Sandbox, which closes down after 7 days maximum. And if you want to get it, you just go to the link. I'll post a link in chat in a second. If you're watching this on Twitch, you can just type !Aura, and then you get the link pinged back to you. And then you can set up an instance and follow along. The initial load is a little bit long, so if you want to play along with what we are going to do today, you might do it now, or if maybe you have something already set up, then you are good to go. And let's dive into it. The data set today, we look into the movie graph a little bit. I think we did before already, but the point here is we wanted to see how easy it is to import data from an existing sandbox, from dump files you might have, and get an initial load into Neo4j Aura free if you have something already with you in a different database environment. So that's the goal for today. And
cool.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing. Shall we dive in?
Again. Yeah. By the way, don't forget to tell us where you're watching from. So we're really interested to see where people are watching from. Hey, Cam, nice to see you. In general, we really love to hear where people are kind of watching the stream from.
Absolutely.
So today I wanted to kind of look at the ways of how you can get like existing larger data sets into Aura as well. So imagine you get some data from somewhere already in Neo4j, and how do you get this into Aura? And also the Aura team launched a sandbox-side feature last week, which allows us to actually start a new instance with the movie dataset to start with. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you look at this, perhaps you want to look at this first. So as just a disclaimer, I have lots of Aura free databases here, but that's a special
it's a special perk.
So usually you get one Aura free database.
Exactly.
And just because I want to show all these kind of different things, the Aura team gave me permission. I think I'm probably only one of very few people who have more than one Aura free database. What I wanted to show you here is if I create a new Aura free database, I can give it a name, like for instance, movies, and then select the region. Depending on where you are, latency-wise, it's good to choose either Europe, US, or Singapore for Asia Pacific. So I'll choose Belgium for the time being. And the new thing is you can either create a blank database, which is empty, or you can create one with the movies dataset. And so I'll start this. I create this database in the background. It shows me again the password that I can copy and store. And then I just let it run because it takes a while to spin this up. And we come back to this movies database later on. Okay, I just store the password here. And while we're doing this, I wanted to show you some other things as well. So as you probably know, I don't know if you know, but in Neo4j Sandbox, you can create your own data sets. You don't just need to use the existing prepared data sets, but you can also create your own data sets, as we've shown a few times before. So in this case, I have a blank sandbox here, and I just open Neo4j browser with it. And thanks to our colleague Rick van Bruggen, I got a really nice Cypher statement here, which will create a beer graph for us. And it does this by actually parsing Wikipedia. So it basically goes to Wikipedia, the Dutch version of Wikipedia. And so you have like this table here with all kinds of beer types and breweries and alcohol percentages and so on. Right? And Rick wanted to test something if he can directly load from the HTML page the data to input into Neo4j, right? So he wrote a statement that basically loads the HTML and then extracts different things from that. So you see these are like HTML or CSS selectors or jQuery selectors that you can say a table with wiki table of table body, table row, table cell, and then the first one, the second one, and so on, and it extracts the brand, the beer type, alcohol percentage, brewery, and time frame from that from those tables. And then
Clever.
for all of these tables, so we can actually, if I just run this in Sandbox, run like this. Let's see what happens. There's my Sandbox here. Here's my Sandbox browser. If I just return value here, then I get a list of, let's see. I hope it's not too much data for my browser to return. Come on.
Well, there are lots of beers in Belgium, so
yeah, so it's yeah, so it's one gigantic record. I think that's the reason why it took so long. So you see here breweries with the text. Then there are all the beer types and so on. So there's all the data from the website extracted, right? And so this is unfortunately something you can't do in Aura because Epoch load HTML is not available in Aura for security reasons. So we can use Sandbox to create actually our data. So I drew a little ASCII graph here. So beer brand have a beer type, beer brand are brewed by a brewery, and a beer brand has a certain alcohol percentage. That's basically what's in here, if I'm not mistaken, right? And so this is our little graph. And now I can in Sandbox just run this whole statement, and it will create all these beers and breweries and alcohol percentages for me. And I just have to practice copy and paste a little bit. Okay.
By the way, did you see this from I don't know who made this now available?
Oh, Stack Overflow copy and paste.
Yeah, maybe you should get this. Don't wanna completely derail our Aura session here, but this is
actually the April's Fool's joke from Stack Overflow. Yeah. And now Cassidy Williams and some others have actually brought it to life. It's actually a high quality machined aluminum keyboard with a USB, and it's freely programmable, so you can also change completely what it does. It doesn't need to be copy and paste. It can be anything else as well, right? It could control your home automation system or whatever you want to do with that as well. So it's pretty cool.
Yes.
And you can now buy it for $30 or something like that, as such. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What does it? It does not like me. Let's see. I think there are too many beers in Belgium. Let's just create a subset. Let's see if this works.
Yeah, that's fine.
So what I wanted to show is basically if you get your data from somewhere else, so you saw a blog post or something else where someone created some data in Sandbox, and you just want to do the same, and then want to take the data into Aura to be available forever, then that's something that you can use here. So let's hope this works now. I hope I didn't break anything here. I didn't create any indexes, so it might be that it's a little bit slow. Oh no, what is wrong here? Or perhaps, I mean, it's just for demonstration. I need to check what's weird with the sandbox. Okay, let's just do a tiny graph. Okay, so this worked. So now I have beers with beer brands and breweries in here, and I can see the data, right? So that's just my little example graph that I have in here. Right, alcohol percentages, we have breweries, we have beer brands, and so on, right? So the interesting bit is now, actually, I want to take this data and want to take it into Aura as such, right? So I go back to my Sandbox UI, and there's a new thing that we just released a few weeks ago, which is called make a backup. So I can just request a backup, and for my database, it now will launch a background process that will generate a backup for my database. So it's queued into a backup queue, and then from there it will generate this backup. So this will also take a few seconds. So while we are waiting for this, we can actually go back and see if our movies database is done yet. No, it's not done yet. So while we're waiting
there was a quick quick question in chat if we can get the cipher to do this. So absolutely yes.
Yeah.
There is a GitHub repository. We will update after each session, and then you can you find all the code there we used during these sessions. So you can go back in time basically and check out the old ones, or read on about this session. So the update is coming.
Exactly.
Later.
So here's the GitHub repository. It's called Neo4j Examples Discover Aura Free. Perhaps Alex, you can also paste.
I'll post a link in chat. Yeah.
And here's for each week basically what we've done, and or what Lou and Alex did initially, and now Alex and I am doing per week. Right. So we'll edit there as well. Okay. So we have our beer here. Here's our sandbox, and now it's a created sandbox dump today at this time. And I can request a download link, and it will go away and create a download link for me. And now I can do download, and it will download my blank sandbox dump, right? And I can just then turn this into beers.dump. And in Aura itself, I have already prepared a database. It's called Sandbox. Where I can now select a dump file here to upload. And
you can do this with
any dump file, right? But this is like our dump file from our Sandbox database. Yes. And it uploads it, and it takes a bit, and then the beer data should be available in our Aura Sandbox Aura database as well. So that's how you can take data that either exists in a sandbox, or you build something incrementally over time in Sandbox, or you have a script or a blog post from someone who did things in Sandbox with a few additional libraries that are installed in Sandbox but not in Aura. Then you can use this and then create a dump, and then basically get your data into Aura as a continuation. Also because the Sandbox goes away after
exactly
at most 10 days. Yeah. So from that perspective, it's nice because in Aura it stays along forever, right?
Yeah.
Which reminds me of
if you started some kind of project on Sandbox and realized, oh, I now would like to keep this going, this is your way.
Exactly. Which reminds me of something. There's a new thing in Aura Free is when you have free databases running after 48 or 76 hours, I think after 76 hours, it pauses them, and then you can resume them later on. So that's just a cost-saving measure. So if people are not using their free databases, we just pause them temporarily, and then you can resume them.
Yeah.
So they're still there. They won't go away, but they're paused as such. Okay, so this was kind of our Sandbox database, which is still loading. And then the other thing, while we're waiting for those two Aura databases to get ready, is the following. For all the Sandbox datasets, we have also prepared a GitHub repository. It's called, actually an organization, it's called Neo4j-graph-examples. And it has 25 repositories. One is actually a template repository, 25 repositories with all kinds of data sets. So we have Stack Overflow, we have the crime investigation poll sandbox, we have a Twitch sandbox, we have the recommendation sandbox, Twitter sandbox, Northwind, Yelp, Twitter trolls, and so on. OpenStreetMap. And all these repositories don't just have, if you want to look at the recommendation sandbox here, they have example images, the data model, they have example queries, and they also have code examples. So each of these repositories also has code examples for all the languages. So for instance, if I want to look at the Go example for the recommendation database, I can go here and see that this is like the Go code for the recommendation database with the correct query for the recommendation as well. And with all the boilerplate code that you need for handling the connection to the database, basically in that language, right? And so you can just clone and run this, or run this directly, or you can just run this in a code sandbox, GitHub code sandbox. So I'll show you. Actually, let's do this. If I just press dot on any GitHub repository, it actually launches VS Code in my browser. And it actually makes this repository available to me as an online live setup. And then I can just say I want to open a terminal. Where's my terminal? Oh, the terminals are not available in the web editor, but I can click continue working on, and then it can launch a terminal, and then I can actually run these code examples basically directly from this repository as well. So I can create a fork of this and then run a code space and then run these code examples as well, connecting to my database as well. So it's pretty cool because all of these examples are runnable, and I can just basically just run them directly. Anyway, slight detour. Let's see this. Oh, this now has my things here, right? So I can go to CD code, JavaScript instance, and then I can do npm install Neo4j, which will install the Neo4j driver. And then I can example.js. And then the only thing that I need to add is my connection credentials here, because in the repository, well, actually what we can do is the following. We can go to the sandbox, and we have our recommendation sandbox. If I create a recommendation sandbox here, this one, it actually replaces all the placeholders that are in the code with the actual connection details. And here, so if I go here to connect via drivers, I actually see these examples here, but with all the credentials already replaced. So I can just basically steal this and paste this in here. And that means if I now run node example.js, then, oops. Yeah. So node example.js, let's see. It connects to my sandbox, and I get the query run and the examples here. Right. So this is all running on my basically in the browser, this is VS Code running there, and I also have, Python available. I have Ruby available if I want to. I have Go available. I have Rust and Cargo available. I have PHP available. So that's pretty powerful stuff. So I have all the 12 or so languages, programming languages available in this GitHub code space, which is really cool.
That's very cool.
So, but what I originally wanted to show you is the following. If we go back to our repository, Neo4j graph examples, recommendations. So the other thing that's also in these repositories is this data folder, and you see these dump files here. So we have 354043 dump, and we can just download any of these dumps. For instance, the 4.3 dump. I can click on this, say download. Then it downloads the dump file. And then in Aura, I can also, for any of these Sandbox data sets, if they fit into the limits here, I can just select the dump file and say recommendations for 3 dump and upload. And then it will upload the dump and initialize it in Aura as well.
And maybe stupid question, but will this replace all the data that is already in your Sandbox, or
that's actually not a stupid question, but a really important question, because it will replace all the data in your database, right? So I think it also says so when you say select dump. Somewhere it should actually say.
I think there was a little pop-up that came, but you clicked it away so quickly.
Sorry.
So maybe that was that. Yeah. Okay. Good to know. So if you
it does replace all your data in your
database. So if you have anything on your Aura free or your any other Aura instance, this is not only Aura free. This is applicable to all.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and while this is loading, we can actually look at our. Let's finish with our beer graph. So we can now. So this is called Sandbox, and I just open Neo4j browser on this, or actually can actually open Bloom on this. Can explore the beer in Bloom, and I just need to copy the password for the Sandbox database. Just this one. Username is Neo4j.
By the way, don't bother screenshotting these passwords. Michael will delete these instances afterwards. So no, not really worth it.
Yeah. So you see, it discovered all the nodes, node types, all the labels in here, and now I can say I want to see all the beer brands and then what brand. And it finds all the beer brands, and I can then say, okay, for these beer brands, I also want to have the brewery, and then I can explore my data in Bloom, right? So I can basically say, and from the brewery, I can see which other brands they, for instance, have, and see these kind of correlated things. So you see, all my data made it in from Sandbox via the dump file into Aura, and then also Bloom for visualization. Right, so you can then, of course, also select what's the caption meant to be, and so on, and do icons and all the fun stuff that you can do on Aura, such. Right, so should be here, yeah. Relationships are also there, and so on. Right, so this was kind of the data from our Sandbox that we got from a backup in Sandbox into Aura as such. And then the other example was the recommendations database is still loading, but the movies database is interesting because that was the one where when we created the Aura free database, we selected not a blank database, but the movies database. And if I open this with browser, I just get the password for the movies database. So the only thing that still needs to be done is here to click on Server Connect. So that's something that will be fixed soon, but that's currently still something that's not showing by default. Server Connect dialog. But now we have here the movies in here, and with the browser guide, you can now, for someone who's new to Neo4j and Cypher and Aura, can explore
Exactly.
this data with the browser guide. So very similar to Sandbox, basically. Right? And that's also the goal, right? So that at some point, Aura will replace Sandbox as a whole.
Does make sense, and I think it's a great experience, especially for a new user, fresh start. You load some data, you hear, as it says, it gives you some code examples, you click them, and then they populate over in the query box, and then you just execute, and then you see some first results, and then you play around with it, and from there you develop more complex scenarios. But I think is for a start, I think this is still very good.
Exactly. So it also contains information on creating data as well, and so it's pretty comprehensive for someone to quickly get through getting started with Cypher, basically, as such.
Absolutely.
Which is really nice.
If you want more guiding, there's always Graph Academy. So this is a little bit, I wouldn't say, I mean, it's also hands-on, and it gives you some railways, right? So you are helped, but you're more told what's happening. In Graph Academy, there's also like why is this happening, and what does it do, and so.
Exactly. So we actually also launched a new version of Graph Academy just a few weeks ago. And if you want to try this, this is kind of the new version of Graph Academy, which basically fundamental Cypher fundamentals and modeling course is coming in the next few weeks. So we are adding more and more courses to this new version of Graph Academy as well. And so that's definitely there. And you can, of course, also continue all the courses on the existing Graph Academy while we are transferring them. So if you want to take any of these courses, and most of them actually, all the courses that don't have graph data science in there also work with Aura as well. So all the intro courses, import courses, and so on also work with Aura as well. Okay, and our last example is the recommendations database, which is still loading. So we'll have to wait for that to finish. The other thing that I wanted to show you quickly is when you are running Neo4j Desktop, you can also create dump files from your own databases. So let me just start Desktop really quickly. Sometimes people also have shared dump files as such, so that's also a way of getting them. But this is kind of mostly when you have an existing Neo4j database somewhere or from someone, then this dump file is the quickest data exchange format from Sandbox to desktop or to Aura, or from desktop to Aura, and so on. And so that's the quickest way of getting there.
Yeah, and I think that's particularly interesting, right? Because you might have started something with desktop, or you, like you said, you wanna, somebody else said, hey, I have this data set which you might not want to share publicly, but he can, or they can give it to you, and then you can upload that dump to your Aura free instance if it fits the limitations, and then you can play with it and sort of start this collaboration project a little bit on it.
Yeah, exactly. So this currently doesn't like me, so I think it's because I just updated desktop over like 6 versions. So just because I haven't used the Mac for quite some time, so it's been oh no, okay, cool.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. So we can take one of the example data sets, like here's an employees database, or like example test data database or something like that. Or what else do I have here? Lots of repo. Game of Thrones.
I mean, it really doesn't
so
matter.
for instance, here's a party or Game of Thrones. Oh, let's I want to have a more current one. Let's see. 354 something. So these are all a little bit older databases. Let's see. For instance, if we take this one, I can say create a dump file from this database, and then it will basically go ahead and create a dump file for me in the current folder, and then I can use this dump file to also upload it to Aura as well. Right, that's also something that I can then do. So I hope to do this. I select the dump. Did it? Could be that's because of my weird update thing here that it didn't do it yet.
Does it need to run to make a dump?
I don't think so. That it because I think it would be. Oh, it doesn't like me. Okay, so I would have to create a new one. So I think that was because I haven't done desktop on this machine for quite some time.
Okay, but I mean, basically, yes.
Yeah.
You click on
you click on
the
dump
little
and
dots.
it then
Yeah.
creates a dump file. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So exactly. So and now our online recommendations database is still loading. Should be done by now. It's still loading. So some of these things are also basically put in a queue, and then whenever the queue is ready to handle the data, then it's actually processed. So it's not necessarily. I know it's ready. It's not necessarily immediate. So it's basically queued up in the background as well to be processed.
Yeah, so that's why it takes sometimes a little bit longer.
Neo4j. And now I have my Sandbox recommendations data set in here that I hopefully, let's see. Yes. So we have 28,000 actors, movies, people, users, and 166,000 relationships in here. So that's kind of the full Sandbox data set. And if I use play Sandbox recommendations index.html, then I have my movie graph, and I can, for instance, run one of these guides. Let's see, perhaps this one. And if all goes well, then we should see exactly content recommendations by overlapping genres, right? So, and then
Nice.
You can continue to explore this data, which is really nice. So we recently updated it with more recent movies as well from the movie lens data set. So all this data is way more recent than it used to be. So there's much more data in there, but it's also more recent data as well.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Right. And just to repeat, all these data sets are in this, Neo4j graph examples organization. And you can just pick and choose whatever data set you're interested in to get the dump files and then import them into Aura as such. So there's a lot of FinCEN files, because you just mentioned FinCEN, for instance, as well.
Yeah, the Panama Papers, Paradise Papers,
exactly. All these kind of things are in there as well. Right. So lots of contact tracing network and OpenStreetMap and so on. So there's network management is also good. So there's a lot of data sets that you can explore from that perspective as well. And we're adding also more. So for instance, the Twitch one is new, and the Stack Overflow one is also new, which doesn't exist as Sandbox yet, even. Right. So that's to become a Sandbox.
Become a Sandbox. Okay, nice. Or if you can't wait for that to become a Sandbox, you can already go ahead.
Then you can import it into Aura.
Exactly. And import it into Aura. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the guide is available as guides Neo4j Stack Overflow index.html. So you can. It's also in the README here. So you can basically just grab this.
You basically copy this, what you just highlighted here, and paste it into the query box in browser, and then you execute. Yeah.
Exactly. So for instance, if I do this here, then it runs Stack Overflow guide. Oops. Oh, this is Sandbox.
Yeah, here we go.
I have to fix the name.
We did fix it. Yeah. Good that we texted it.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it explores Stack Overflow as a way of looking at gradings and content correlations and tag correlations. So similar to what we did a few weeks ago here as well. Right. So yeah, that's mostly the things that I wanted to show, and these are kind of new ways of getting data into Aura. And now I can get rid of all these databases again, right? So I can just do destroy them again, and then they're gone, right? So that's how you can then also get rid of them as well.
Exactly. I mean, you will only have one, so you can either destroy it, or you can always detach, delete, and then clear it out, or just overwrite it with a new dump file, as we just learned. This will also clear out everything that's there before. So if you already have one running and you don't want to switch region, I would recommend not to delete it, and rather, either import a dump file or delete everything in your graph, because if you want to do something right away, then you will have some downtime, because if you delete the one and then you create a new one, it might take a few minutes, and then you lose some time. If you don't want to wait, then it's better to just delete everything in there.
Cool. And there's also a trick that you could do is if you have an empty dump file that doesn't contain any data, you can also upload an empty dump file, and then it will basically replace everything in your database with an empty dump file, so with nothing. So it will also get rid of all the indexes and constraints and all the other things. And so you have a blank database again without having to go as such. So that's a trick.
It's also a trick. Yeah, good trick.
Yeah. Cool. So that's it from me for today.
All right. Cool. Thank you, Michael.